I say this all the time, but your voice has so much power, and that power can travel from your home across your country and globally. And today's guest is definitely going to prove us, or not prove, but demonstrate to us just how quickly that can happen. In fact, today's guest was also one of the speakers who were a part of my TEDx that I did back in January, which releases in May. So today's guest was one of the featured speakers, which is how I found out about her. Super excited to share her story and her journey with you when we get back from today's intro. Hey, family, welcome back to another episode of Excellence in Everything Live. I am your podcast guest, LinnitaHosten, and I am a nerd about all things communication. I travel the country as a keynote speaker, and I also teach other people to amplify their influence and impact by way of their public speaking skills. And I know if you follow me online, you know that I have an upcoming public speaking class called Stage Power Intensive, and early bird tickets are still hot and ready and available through March 27th. So that's next week. So you have about a week left to grab those early bird tickets before those prices increase. You can get more information about that at stagepowerintensive.com. But if you are a person who participates in high visibility events, if you are a person who is commonly asked to give brief remarks for an organization on their behalf, if you struggle with piecing together something impactful, if you struggle with managing your body language and you want to increase your maybe your visible competency and also your verbal competency, you know you'll be in the right space. So I'm excited to share with you today's guest. Now you guys know I only like to bring the people who I feel like have something meaningful and impactful to say. And today's guest is no other than Genevieve Piturro, and she is a former TV executive, multiple best-selling author, and she left her job for a how do I say this? For the opportunity to distribute pajamas. So excited to share how her voice and idea turned globally very quickly. So excited to have you, Genevieve. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Lynita. Thank you for this invitation.
Absolutely. I can't wait to pull back the curtain to hear a little bit more about your story. I want to start by asking you, what gave you the audacity to leave what was something already very successful to use your voice globally? What was that? What was that driving force for you?
If I have to be honest, it was heart. For the first
Mm,
time, I heard my heart speak up. In the crazy world of TV that I was part of, my heart just sort of whispered, but it sounded like a scream, one question to me. And from
mm,
that point on, it was my heart that started to lead me and instead of my brain.
mm. Good. That's that heart and mind piece. What exactly is, I know you, I read a little bit about some of the work that you do, and you are an inspirational speaker as well as a keynote speaker. What kinds of topics do you speak on, and how did you elect those topics?
Well, I chose them because over more than 20 years as the executive director as well as the founder of Pajama Program, it was interesting to hear people's questions and ask me for some advice on how to either change your path midstream, your work path, or what does it really mean to follow your heart? And can you make a business from it? And I thought that was really interesting because I realized I shared those doubts and those fears too. I
Mm,
never thought your heart was a big part of money making process or a decision about career. Whether it's nonprofit, I started a nonprofit, but finding your purpose and listening to your heart is for you in any business that you want
mm,
to start or be a part of.
mm-hmm. For sure. Can't, difficult to remove the heart from the work. In fact, that's not the kind of work that I ever want to be associated with. I want to feel and enjoy what I'm doing. I want to see the fruit of that too. Um, Talk to me a little bit about, because you were in a corporate executive role, do you feel like public speaking skills are, uh, how do I put this? Do you feel like they are valued in the corporate space as a form of a soft skill?
I think more and more they're not so soft. It's not a soft skill now. It's a integrity. It's to
Mm,
show that you're standing for something. Standing proudly for the words that you're saying. That you're coming from a deep place into your heart because you want to connect. When we connect, it's heart to heart. Really, I believe emotion is what drives the world, but you also want to stand firm and be strong about what you're saying or what you're asking. Stand in your own space. So I don't
mm,
think it's soft skill, certainly not anymore. I think it's really a beautiful power skill we're learning how to embrace.
I love that. Power, skill. I have heard that language before. And what do you remember the very first time you picked up a microphone in front of a large group of people? Do you remember that moment? Can you recount how you felt speaking, amplifying your voice in that way?
Sure. Well, it was very different because I did speak in the corporate world as well. And that was brain speak. When I
Mm,
started speaking, when I found my heart and I changed, and the story went from corporate executive to founder of Pajama Program, the first time, and it's still to this day, I would be and am very emotional.
mm,
It was such a difference, and it made me really uncomfortable because I thought, who wants to be watching this woman with a tear coming down her cheek on stage? It's not very professional, it's not very strong, it's weak, you know and I had to lose all of those ridiculous notions because people were connecting. We're
mm,
connecting with my heart, we're connecting with my story, and that was powerful. And I needed that. We all need to feel seen and respected and heard. And in my case, I needed to share my story so that other people would understand the work we were doing and why we were doing this for the children.
mm,
So I got married early on. That's a whole story of, I was single in my corporate world, and then I met someone who helped me believe it that I could do Pajama Program, the best way I could. And he said to me, "Don't try to stop the tears because then you're cheating yourself. The whole reason you're there is to put your heart on your sleeve, and you're cheating other people for
mm.
the connection they want to have with you."
Wow. Okay, so you said a lot there. Let's unpack that. That vulnerability on stage from a woman's perspective, sometimes perceived as weakness. Why do you think that is? I know it's something that you've overcome and you're way past it, but at some point, including myself, I also had that perception. Where do you think that comes from?
Men, I think they for so long were, put air quotes, the powerful ones in the boardroom, the powerful ones leading. And I think that's changing. And I think one of the reasons it's changing is because people want to be part of a conversation, they don't want to be talked at. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we as women bring that, whether you want to call it nurturing, um, kindness, compassion, softness, we're bringing that to the forefront. And there are men who are embracing that, which is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not all, but I think because the reaction is more positive, um, the following is more positive, the visionary who is compassionate and works to connect heart to heart will be able to have the support of more people than somebody who stands there and says, "This is the way it's going to be, and this is your job, go and do it." It's a very
Mm-hmm.
different world now. And as women, we are in a much better place to have influence and impact that the influence and impact
Mm-hmm.
we want to have to make things better for more people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree anymore. I want to ask you, I know you mentioned storytelling is one of the ways that you connect with an audience. I'm assuming there's some vulnerability in that storytelling that sometimes move even your own self to tears, it sounds like. What are some other strategies that you use when you're speaking to connect with your audience? Because it sounds like that heart piece is huge for you. That's something that you stand by, you promote, you model. So, what are some other techniques that you use to drive connection outside of storytelling?
There's a question that I never knew would be so significant in my speaking. It is the question that I mentioned earlier, I heard from my heart that really prompted the big change in my career, my path. And what my heart asked me in a whisper was, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And Lynita, I think when I ask that question, which is often in my presentations, I can see the reaction on the faces of those in the audience that they've really heard a question that they've never heard before. Like I never heard that before either. And I think finding that common thread
Mm-hmm.
has become so powerful for me. And I thought it was only me. I heard that. I didn't think it would have an impact on anyone else. I thought the story about the little girl who, when I read to them, to the children in emergency shelters and saw they were going to sleep in their clothes and frayed and just traumatized, and I brought pajamas, and a little girl asked me so timidly, "What are pajamas?" The story that started it all about my question of 30 years and that story with the little girl and her question, I think it just went through the hearts of so many people because that um, we shared those feelings that those questions brought up in us.
Mm. And I must say, you must be doing a fantastic job when you go out and speak in front of groups because your accolades speak very high about the impact that you're making on the hearts of those that you touch. So, Genevieve, you've been featured on the Today Show. You've also been featured on the Oprah Show. Uh, Tell us some other ones that you've been featured on.
Most of the morning shows have been very kind. Um, got to ring the NASDAQ bell in Manhattan
Wow.
stock market. That was a lot of fun. Oprah was up there, the Today Show, and um, different shows locally and nationally and newspapers. The media has really helped to share
Mm,
our story and our
I love
work,
it.
and I'm so grateful and grateful for the viewers who took action when they saw it.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, I want to show a highlight of the opportunity that you had when you were on the Oprah Show and what that was like. Let's take a peek.
And went into my brain. And I know it sounds crazy, but I know you get it.
Yeah.
And I said, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Pajamas.
Yeah.
And I went around and I asked if I could bring pajamas because when I was reading to the kids and we were finished,
Yeah.
8 o'clock, the staff would say, time to go to bed. And I'd watch them and they didn't have anything to change into.
This is at the shelters.
This is at the shelters. And I said to one of the staff people, next time, can I bring pajamas? And she said, that would be great. No, nobody thinks of that. Nobody gives pajamas. And she told me the next time there would be 12 kids and the sizes and the ages. I was so excited. And she said, I'll bring the kids in one at a time. And the third or fourth little girl came in, and she must have been 6 or 7, and she looks, and she says to me quietly, what are these?
Wow.
And I said, they're pajamas. You wear them to sleep. What do you wear to sleep at night? And she said, my pants.
Wow. Well, in the last 5 years, Genevieve has collected 85,000 pairs of pajamas, as she said, and given them away. And what you don't know is about 7 days ago, we, meaning our producers, called up this studio audience and told them about your tremendous act, what you've done of love. And so we challenged this audience to pay it forward by bringing as many new pajamas as they could to the studio today. My producers this morning, they wouldn't tell me how many PJs that everybody brought, but everybody seemed pretty happy this morning. So Dean, the envelope, please, I'm gonna tell you how many pajamas that this audience and more.
Wow. Genevieve, when we talk
What is
about moving the world boldly with your voice, I can't think of a better way of doing so by answering a small, simple question. What are those? What was it like what was it like sitting there interviewing with Oprah and having someone of her magnitude buy into the vision that you had?
Well, that's an excellent question. I was extremely nervous, as you can imagine. But when she started to talk to me, she was so heartfelt, and I felt like I I was comfortable. I let out a sigh of relief. I wasn't nervous anymore. She just has that unbelievable ability to, almost without physically wrapping her arms around you, wrap her arms around you. And I was hoping that would happen because we all see her on TV and we all feel that she has a huge heart and she understands purpose and compassion and, being together, one another. And she really did. And I was close to tears a lot. I could let them out when she brought the number up, and she had some tears too. But she was not this huge stranger that you see on TV. She was a warm friend who really wanted to hear more, and it was a really once in a lifetime, you know, appearance anywhere in front of anyone sitting next to her.
I love it. I love it. The pajama program has hit its 22nd anniversary. Do I have that correctly?
We started officially in 2001. I started a year before. So we're nearing there in 8 million pajamas. Yeah. And now I speak. Now, after 20 years, I passed the reign of executive director to a president of our board, Jamie, who's doing a great job. And now
Awesome.
I speak and wrote a couple of books and will write another one to answer what I mentioned to you before, to help other people, inspire them, I pray, to listen to their heart and to make decisions from their heart.
What's one thing that you can share with the person today who is like, I do want to make more decisions with my heart? Genevieve, I hear you. What's one thing that I can do like today to start like even making that something that's front of mind? What advice would you give them?
Well, two things. First, on my website, GenevievePiturro.com, there's a button at the top that says an exercise to help you find your purpose. Do that exercise. It is 90 minutes. You must do it alone. No distractions. You can have a glass of wine, a cup of tea, anything you want, paper and pen, no laptop. So do that. And also connect with me. I'm happy to give, an hour. I coach people all the time. I'm happy to give a free hour to anybody who wants to just brainstorm and tell me what they're thinking, and I'll give some honest feedback.
I love it. And where can they find you outside of your website? Are you active on any social media platforms?
Yes, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at Genevieve Piturro.
Yes, and it's all
Awesome.
linked on my website.
Any last minute remarks you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Yeah, it's okay to be afraid. I do things afraid all the time, and just do it afraid. You'll get through. I promise. I promise.
We love it, and we definitely love your heart of service. And thank you for spearheading that initiative and now helping other people bring their lights and initiatives to the forefront. So we appreciate you, Genevieve. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast.
And I appreciate you, Linnita. Thank you for this time.
You are welcome. If you have not been inspired today, listen, when we talk about boldly using your voice, Genevieve alluded to this, but it's not a head thing. It's a heart thing. Genevieve also talked about the importance of identifying what your purpose is. There's a lot of connection between that and your heart. She also gave you a resource. She said, go to her website, fill out the form, do that self-discovery, self-assessment. And if you have questions about it, book a time with her. We can't be bold in our voices if we're like meek and not as confident in the use of them or in the ideas that we have cultivating in our minds. So thank you for the extra push and that reminder. Boldness takes courage, and it takes a sense of like, I'm gonna try my best no matter if it's deemed valued or not. I'm gonna give my best. I'm gonna show up the best way that I know how. And I think Genevieve is a great example of that. So we appreciate her for coming on today's podcast, and I appreciate you for listening. Please like or share it with a family or friend or someone you may think will find this helpful. I'll see you or talk with you next Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. I love you. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.